excessive forward rotation.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah. So do you want to hear that? Excessive forward rotation of the pelvis. Good.
Chest collection.
Chest collection. I like it. Laugh is funny. Yeah. Yeah. So that, that sort of schlumpy posture. Yeah.
Pivoting from the hip up through the lumbar spine, especially when you're coming out.
Yeah, it's the same as it's the same as the excessive forward rotation of the pelvis. It's anatomically it's the same. It's just sequentially in the movement. One is leading with it, and one is coming out with it. Does that make sense to you all? So I'll demonstrate to make it simpler. So excessive forward rotation of the pelvis is like the duck butt, like stick out your tail feathers. Okay, so the excessive forward rotation coming into the posture is like this, where you lead with the pelvis. Coming out, it's not exactly the same. Coming out, what happens is, in general, you take the chest up too high. So instead of stopping when the back is flat, you come up too high with the chest and then come into that sway back again on the way up. So you'd have this on the way down, and then you'd have this. See, I went past flat on the way up. Is that what you were referring to? Yeah. Just anatomically it's the same, but it's at a different place in the movement. And it doesn't feel good. So, and what else? There's one more that's a really, really common one. These are the ones that we're going to look at.
The head.
Yeah, right. Leading with the head. Yeah. And again, it depends on where it is in the movement. It happens both on the way down and while you're in the pose and on the way up. All three of those. On the way down, I think of it in general as resisting the forward bend with your neck. So instead of allowing your chin to drop down and back to lengthen the back of the neck, so the back of the neck receives the stretch, you're actually arching into the stretch so that you can't stretch the back of the neck. So as you come down, it's like this, where there's tension here instead of length. And then some people stay down with the head up. And then even if there's some students that even if they're very relaxed at the bottom, they start to come up by doing this. Instead of leading with the sternum and the breath, which is here, flatten the upper back first and let the head lead. They lead with the head and then lead the whole rest of the spine up with the head. Okay? That creates a lot of tension over time and can create posterior compression of the discs and other structures in the back of the neck. As well as it just doesn't benefit those muscles. As you learned with Val, the erectors, the spinal erectors run from the sacrum all the way up. And so if you're not pulling on both ends of those muscles, the whole muscle doesn't actually get to stretch. So you're actually limiting the stretch that you're able to achieve and limiting the benefit of the forward bend for those top fibers. Okay? Good. So those are the main release valves that we're going to look at. In terms of posture, so there's a differentiation I'd like to make with you here just to get you thinking this way. There is anatomical position and the way that people hold their bodies in anatomical or static positions. And then there's the way that people move. Okay, so you could have someone that has a particular kind of a structural alignment at rest, and then when they move you might see something different coming into play. But it's very, very important also to realize that based on what the person's alignment is from the starting position is going to determine how they initiate the movement. Are you too sorry? Okay, I'm going to say that again. So based on the person's alignment in the starting position, the way that they initiate the movement changes slightly. Okay, and let's look at forward bend in particular. We'll do this all with all of your bodies. We'll get to explore this kinesthetically in a sec. So let's say you are someone that has this forward rotation of the pelvis, or like you're standing, and as you stand, you're sway back. You're going to move into it a little differently from someone who, as they're standing, is here. Okay? Where this is more neutral, for me this is neutral. So, this is a more neutral alignment. There are people who will be starting here, and there are people who will be starting here. And how they're going to move into the forward bend is going to depend on that. So here, let's differentiate just two general directions of abdominal muscles. So you have the ones that go across, right? And then you have ones that go up and down. And when these contract, when the fibers here shorten, you get a cinching in effect for that beautiful Barbie waist that none of us want, because our organs couldn't function properly. But anyway, that narrowing in, squeezing it, and it goes all the way around. It wraps all the way around into the back. So it's like you ever hear that word corset? It's like a corseting. We don't have those anymore, thank God. It's a corseting effect. It squeezes everything in, and in that squeezing in, it increases intervertebral space, increases the distance between the vertebrae and the spine. It elongates the mid-spine, lower spine. And so that's that primary action, is it stabilizes and supports and narrows. And it doesn't change the tilt of the pelvis or the curvature of the low back. So in other words, you can maintain the same spinal curve and just squeeze in. It doesn't do anything to the pelvis. Bless you. The other set of muscles runs this way, and it goes from the pubic bone all the way up and connects in here, xiphoid process, and the muscles, or the ribs, the inner surfaces of the ribs right here. So this is this long kind of six-pack muscle. And when they contract, and the ends of that muscle move toward each other, the pubic bone lifts, the pelvis tilts posterior, the low back flattens, and if you're not using your upper back muscles to keep your chest up, your chest also comes down. Basically, these move toward each other. And all of the structures in the back respond accordingly. Pelvis tilts back, low back flattens or rounds, and then upper back rounds as the sternum is pulled down. Make sense? So we have squeezing in, which doesn't necessarily change the tilt of anything. And then we have lifting up, which does. Okay? So, if you are someone who is starting off in this position, what you're going to want to do to start your forward bend and get the pelvic lumbar rhythm going is you're going to want to actually flatten a little bit. You're going to want to shorten here and then begin to bend forward. Then begin that rounding and hip rotation. If you're this person, what you're going to want to do is definitely engage that corset set of muscles, but then from there, continue lengthening the low back, but really encourage the pelvis to rotate forward. So instead of posterior tilting the pelvis further, or inhibiting the forward movement of the pelvis, you're going to want to encourage the pelvis to move forward with that abdominal support and continuing to create length in the low back. Sequentially, that's how it goes. Does that make sense to you guys?
Pretty cool stuff, and definitely a lot of information. So I hope you enjoyed that and learned something from it. If you have any questions about anything that River was talking about in that brief presentation, feel free to post it down below, and we will do our best to answer your question. All right, take care. This is Jake from Old Town Yoga, and we'll see you soon.